Ever feel like you've seen it all? Think again, because these 20 picks are about to flip your cinema world upside down. Welcome back to Movieverse, where we dig up the wild, the weird, and the wondrous from film history. Today's journey? The forbidden fruit of the 1950s, movies so controversial they were banned or censored on release. But now you can watch them with just a click. Buckle up, movie lovers, let's dive in. The Moon is Blue, 1953. Ever imagine a simple rom-com could bring Hollywood's censorship system to its knees? The Moon is Blue did just that. Directed by the legendary Otto Preminger, this sparkling comedy stars William Holden, David Niven, and Maggie McNamara as characters caught in a witty, flirtatious dance of romantic misadventure in 1950s New York. What made censors go nuclear? The film's playful but frank discussion of sexuality, with words like virgin and seduce left boldly in the script, a direct slap in the face to the production code. Preminger refused to cut a thing, and United Artists rolled the dice by releasing the movie without the code seal. Audiences loved it, critics gasped, and the box office soared to over $3.5 million. Some cities banned it, others cut it to pieces. But the controversy only fueled its legend. Today, you can watch this taboo breaker freely, a relic of rebellion that opened the door to a whole new era of frank, funny, and fearless American films. Blackboard Jungle, 1955. Ready to see the movie that made rock and roll a revolution and freaked out a generation of parents and teachers? Blackboard Jungle is the gritty tale of Richard Dadier, played by Glenn Ford, who takes on the toughest classroom in New York, facing down rebellious students, one played by a young Sidney Poitier in a breakout role. What really set this film on fire wasn't just its candid look at juvenile delinquency, but its explosive soundtrack, featuring Bill Haley and his Comets' Rock Around the Clock. Schools banned it. Cities like Memphis tried to pull it from theaters, and it even caused riots in the UK. Yet audiences flocked to see it, and it helped launch rock music into the mainstream. The film's legacy is electrifying, a razor-sharp time capsule of 1950s anxiety and excitement. Now it's streaming freely, letting new generations experience the shockwaves that once rocked Hollywood and the world. Loving this wild ride? Just wait until you see what's next. The Man with the Golden Arm, 1955. Imagine a film that dared to show what no Hollywood movie had shown before, a man's agonizing struggle with heroin addiction. Frank Sinatra stars as Frankie Machine, a jazz drummer trying to break free from the grip of drugs in The Man with the Golden Arm. Director Otto Preminger returns to our list, once again taking a sledgehammer to censorship by refusing to sugarcoat Nelson Algren's dark novel. The result? A film denied the production code seal, banned in some places, and debated in newspapers across the country. Yet the powerhouse performances by Sinatra, Kim Novak, and Eleanor Parker, along with Saul Bass's now legendary opening titles, turned it into a cultural lightning rod. Grossing over $9 million and scoring 3 Oscar nominations, this raw and gutsy film didn't just challenge taboos, it redefined them. Today, The Man with the Golden Arm stands as a must-see, streaming uncensored and ready to blow your mind. Are you feeling the power of these forgotten classics? Baby Doll, 1956. Sultry, scandalous, and downright shocking for its time, Baby Doll is the Southern Gothic that drove censors and church groups wild. Written by Tennessee Williams and directed by Elia Kazan, the story centers on a child bride, played with teasing innocence by Carol Baker, caught between her frustrated husband and a scheming rival. The steamy subject matter, suggestive advertising, and Baker's famous nightgown scenes caused a media firestorm. The Catholic Legion of Decency condemned it. States like Georgia outright banned it. Behind the scenes, the controversy only fanned the flames of publicity, propelling the film to 4 Oscar nominations and a lasting legacy as one of cinema's most daring provocations. Today, the film's sly critique of repression, desire, and hypocrisy feels as bold as ever, and you can finally stream it without scandal. Craving more eyebrow-raising cinema history? Keep that curiosity fired up. Rebel Without a Cause, 1955. Rebel Without a Cause isn't just a movie, it's a cultural earthquake. James Dean's electrifying performance as Jim Stark, a sensitive teenager adrift in a world of adult hypocrisy, defined a generation. The film, also starring Natalie Wood and Sal Mineo, doesn't pull punches, tackling themes of alienation, violence, and broken families. Director Nicholas Ray captures every ounce of angst and yearning with vivid CinemaScope visuals, setting the gold standard for teen rebellion films. But all that intensity was too much for censors in New Zealand and Ireland, who banned the film outright, and many U.S. cities demanded cuts. Tragically, Dean died before the film's release, cementing its status as an immortal classic. Though its box office was modest at first, Rebel became a touchstone for misfits everywhere, influencing everything from fashion to music. Streaming now, it's more than a relic, it's a rite of passage. Still with me? The next entry is a true underground legend. Salt of the Earth, 1954. Prepare for a film so defiant, the FBI tried to bury it. Salt of the Earth tells the gripping, true-to-life story of Mexican-American miners striking for dignity and equal rights in 1950s New Mexico. Directed by Herbert J. Biberman, one of the infamous Hollywood 10 blacklisted during the Red Scare, this film went all in with real-life miners and their families in the cast, capturing authenticity like lightning in a bottle. But that same realism and its unapologetic support for women's rights and labor activism made it a political lightning rod. Banned from most theaters, sabotaged by Hollywood bigwigs, and shunned by distributors, Salt of the Earth nearly vanished. Yet those few who saw it recognized its raw power and groundbreaking feminism. Years later, its legend only grew, culminating in its inclusion in the National Film Registry. Today, it stands tall as a testament to resilience, the power of working people, and the unstoppable force of art. Streaming now, Salt of the Earth is more vital than ever. Still loving these stories of cinematic rebellion? Let's keep digging. Lstrada, 1954. If ever a film captured the bittersweet poetry of life, it's Federico Fellini's Lstrada. The story follows Gelsomina, played by the achingly expressive Giulietta Messina, who is sold by her mother to the brutish traveling strongman Zampano, portrayed by Anthony Quinn. Their journey across the desolate Italian countryside is both a carnival and a heartbreak, filled with moments of comic absurdity and devastating pathos. Censors in several countries balked at the film's depiction of poverty, cruelty, and existential despair. Some even demanded cuts for being too raw and unrelenting. But audiences and critics who embraced it found themselves swept up in its haunting score by Nino Rota and its deeply human story. Lstrada won the very first Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, establishing Fellini as a visionary director. Once feared for its darkness, now celebrated for its humanity, Lstrada is free to stream and ready to break and mend your heart. Hungry for more cinematic treasures? Let's rev up the engines. The Wild One, 1953. Leather jackets, roaring motorcycles, and a rebel yell. The Wild One is where cinematic cool was born. Marlon Brando commands the screen as Johnny Strabler, the brooding leader of the Black Rebels Motorcycle Club, whose invasion of a sleepy town sets off a powder keg of fear and fascination. The film, also starring Lee Marvin as a rival gang boss, shocked audiences with its unvarnished portrayal of lawless youth and anti-establishment rage. British censors were so unnerved they banned the film outright for 14 years, and many U.S. towns followed suit. The tension between the bikers and the townsfolk was mirrored off-screen, with Brando's intense method acting causing on-set friction but producing iconic results. Despite censorship and controversy, The Wild One became a cult phenomenon, seeping into fashion, music, and pop culture. Now available to stream, it still pulses with danger and defiance, daring you to answer that immortal question. What are you rebelling against? Ready for a little European scandal next? Let's roll. Let's. And God Created Woman, 1956. Few films set off a cultural explosion quite like Roger Vadim's And God Created Woman. With Brigitte Bardot lighting up the screen in her breakthrough role, the film follows Juliette, a wild and sensual free spirit who ignites passions and trouble in the sun-soaked streets of Saint-Tropez. French critics called it scandalous, American censors tried to slice away its sexuality, and the Catholic Legion of Decency condemned it outright. But Bardot's magnetic presence and Vadim's daring direction turned controversy into box office gold. The film grossed millions and made Bardot an international sex symbol, ushering in a new era of sexual frankness in cinema. Behind the scenes, the real-life romance between Vadim and Bardot only fueled the tabloid frenzy. Once the stuff of whispered warnings and God Created Woman now streams freely, inviting you to experience the sun, sizzle, and storm that changed European cinema forever. Still in for more? Our next film goes dark, very dark. The Big Combo, 1955. Step into the shadowy underworld with The Big Combo, a film noir that pushed boundaries with every frame. Cornell Wilde stars as Police Lieutenant Leonard Diamond, a relentless cop obsessed with bringing down the sadistic gangster Mr. Brown, played to chilling perfection by Richard Conte. Director Joseph H. Lewis pours on the moody atmosphere. Think blinding searchlights, billowing fog, and stark, razor-sharp shadows. The film's suggestive sexuality and graphic violence for its time, most infamously a brutal torture by hearing aid sequence, had censors on high alert, forcing cuts for television and even bans in some places. Despite modest box office success, The Big Combo grew in reputation among cinephiles and critics, now considered a top-tier noir for its visual flair and moral complexity. Streaming now, uncut and unsanitized, it's a thrilling ride for lovers of dark, daring cinema. Intrigued? Hit that like, because up next are films that pushed boundaries in ways you won't believe. Peeping Tom, 1960. Just a hair outside the 50s, but its scandal is pure atomic-era shock. Michael Powell's Peeping Tom is the stuff of nightmares, a technicolor descent into obsession and voyeurism. Carl Bohm plays Mark Lewis, a shy cameraman who films women at the very moment of their death. The British Board of Film Censors nearly banned it, and critics savaged it as depraved, calling it sick and vicious. The backlash was so brutal it torpedoed Powell's career, one of Britain's greatest directors. But Peeping Tom was ahead of its time. Its eerie psychological tension and bold visual style would influence horror legends from Hitchcock to Scorsese. The film's use of the killer's point of view, paired with a haunting score and color-saturated cinematography, delivers chills that still resonate today. Once hidden in the vaults, now it's streaming for new generations to discover its genius. So, are you brave enough to peer through the lens of a true cinematic taboo breaker? Drop a comment if you've got the guts to watch this alone. Los Olvidados, 1950. From master provocateur Luis Buñuel comes Los Olvidados, a searing, heart-wrenching look at the lives of Mexico City's abandoned children. Blending brutal realism with surreal flourishes, Buñuel's film follows Pedro and Jaibo as they navigate poverty, violence, and a world that's turned its back on them. The film was so controversial upon release that Mexican authorities almost banned it outright, denouncing it for exposing the country's social underbelly. Internationally, critics hailed its courage. It won Best Director at Cannes and forever changed perceptions of Latin American cinema. The casting of real street kids brought haunting authenticity, with behind-the-scenes stories of hardship matching those on screen. Los Olvidados has since become a staple of film studies, both for its artistry and its daring social critique. Streaming freely now, it's your chance to experience a film that was once erased from its own history books. Are you ready to confront cinema's darkest realities? Smash that like if you love movies that don't play it safe. A Streetcar Named Desire, 1951. Few films burned through the screen like A Streetcar Named Desire. Adapted from Tennessee Williams's legendary play and directed by Elia Kazan, this feverish drama saw Marlon Brando and Vivien Leigh turn in performances so raw, so magnetic, they shook Hollywood's foundations. Brando's Stanley Kowalski oozes animal energy, while Leigh's Blanche Dubois disintegrates before our eyes. But such intensity came at a price. The original film faced censorship over its frank sexual themes, coded references to homosexuality, and portrayal of abuse. Several scenes were snipped, yet the film's provocative power endured, earning 4 Oscars and turning Brando's Stella into an immortal cry. Behind the scenes, the set was as tense as the story. Leigh's fragile health and Kazan's demanding direction only added to the film's legend. Streaming now in its restored glory, A Streetcar Named Desire remains a masterclass in acting and adaptation. Are you ready to revisit this Southern Gothic inferno? Let us know your favorite quote in the comments. Fritz Lang's The Big Heat, 1953. Prepare for a noir that doesn't just simmer, it boils over. The Big Heat is Fritz Lang's searing tale of vengeance and corruption, starring Glenn Ford as a hard-nosed detective seeking justice after his wife's tragic murder. Gloria Graham is unforgettable as the Moll with a conscience, while Lee Marvin chills as the sadistic thug Vince Stone. What made censors nervous? The violence, especially the infamous coffee pot scene and its unflinching look at organized crime. Countries like Finland cut scenes others considered outright bans. Yet Lang's direction is razor-sharp, drawing praise for its stark lighting and relentless pace. Box office returns were respectable, but the film's true impact was felt later, now hailed as one of noir's boldest, most influential entries. The Big Heat is streaming for anyone craving tension, atmosphere, and revenge that still scorches decades later. Are you hooked on these noir masterpieces? Stay tuned, because the list only gets bolder. Room at the Top, 1959. British cinema grew up overnight with Room at the Top. This searing drama, directed by Jack Clayton, shattered taboos with its candid portrayal of ambition, class, and illicit love. Lawrence Harvey stars as Joe Lampton, a working-class upstart desperate to escape his roots, until he falls for Alice Aysgill, a married woman played with devastating grace by Simone Signoret. British censors wavered, nervous about the film's sexuality and adult themes, while several countries made cuts or delayed its release. Behind the scenes, the battle for artistic integrity was fierce, but controversy only fed the film's legend. Room at the Top was a box office smash, sweeping BAFTA and Oscar nominations, and it opened the floodgates for a wave of frank, socially conscious British films. Now streaming, it's your ticket to a cinematic revolution. Don't miss the film that taught Britain how to talk about love, lust, and the cost of ambition. Ready for the next forbidden classic? Hit subscribe. Kiss Me Deadly, 1955. Get ready for a fever dream of paranoia, violence, and Cold War dread. Robert Aldrich's Kiss Me Deadly is the atomic age noir that's still blowing minds. Ralph Meeker stars as Mike Hammer, a hard-boiled private eye who stumbles into a Pandora's box of murder, nuclear secrets, and a mysterious glowing suitcase that's become the stuff of film legend. Censors were not amused by the movie's unapologetic brutality. Scenes were cut, endings altered, and in some countries the film was outright banned for its nihilistic tone and shockingly graphic violence. But that didn't stop Kiss Me Deadly from burrowing deep into pop culture. Critics initially panned it, but years later it became a cult sensation and an inspiration for everything from Pulp Fiction to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Behind the scenes, its production was just as wild. Budget troubles, last-minute rewrites, and a studio nervous about the atomic plotline. Streaming now in all its restored glory, this film is a time capsule of American anxiety and pure cinematic audacity. Want more stories that sizzle? Drop a comment if you love when movies break all the rules. The Lovers, Les Amants, 1958. What do you get when you mix romance, existential longing, and a healthy dose of scandal? Louis Malle's The Lovers, a French New Wave classic that sent censors and eventually the U.S. Supreme Court into a frenzy. Jeanne Moreau stuns as Jeanne, a woman torn between social conventions and an all-consuming passion with a younger man. The film's poetic sensuality, frank nudity, and emotional honesty shocked American audiences, leading to a landmark obscenity trial in Ohio. The court ultimately ruled the film was not obscene, paving the way for greater artistic freedom in American cinema. French censors were wary, but the film became a sensation, launching Moreau as an international star. Behind the scenes, Malle fought for his vision against relentless pressure to tone down the romance. Now streaming, The Lovers is not just a steamy affair. It's a vital chapter in the battle for artistic expression. Ready for another world-shaking classic? Smash that like if you believe in the power of love and cinema to change the world. Godzilla Gojira, 1954. Before he was a pop culture icon, Godzilla was a grim metaphor for atomic horror, unleashed on Japanese screens in 1954. Directed by Ishiro Honda, Godzilla starts with a series of mysterious shipwrecks and builds to the epic reveal, a massive, unstoppable creature awakened by nuclear testing. The American version, heavily censored and recut, downplayed the anti-nuclear message. But the original Japanese cut, now streaming, is a sobering meditation on post-war trauma and the dangers of technological arrogance. Censors in the U.S. and several other countries trimmed the film for violence and unsettling themes, but it became a box office juggernaut in Japan and gave birth to one of the most influential franchises in cinema history. Special effects maestro Eiji Tsuburaya's miniatures set a new standard, and Akira Ifukube's iconic score still echoes through movie theaters today. Watching Godzilla now, you see not just a monster movie, but a haunting reflection of the nuclear age, a must for fans of both sci-fi and film history. Victim, 1961. Edge of the 50s, but crucial for its time, Victim is a quiet revolution on celluloid. Directed by Basil Dearden and starring Dirk Bogarde, this tense British thriller follows a successful barrister who risks everything to confront a blackmail ring targeting gay men at a time when homosexuality was still criminalized in the UK. The film doesn't flinch from reality, using the word homosexual for the first time in English-language cinema, and portraying its characters with dignity and complexity. The British Board of Film Censors tried to tone it down, nervous about public backlash, while some theaters refused to show it. Yet Victim became a lifeline for countless viewers and is now hailed as a landmark in queer cinema and social progress. The behind-the-scenes story is equally bold. Bogarde, himself a closeted gay man, fought for the film's honesty at great personal risk. Streaming now, Victim stands as both a gripping thriller and a courageous statement of solidarity. If you believe movies can spark real change, this one's for you. High School Confidential, 1958. Let's close this countdown with a technicolor blast of camp, controversy, and pure 1950s wildness. High School Confidential. Russ Tamblyn stars as Tony, an undercover cop tackling a high school drug ring, but it's the over-the-top drama and scandalous themes that made this a lightning rod for censors. The film is a kaleidoscope of beatnik slang, jazz, drag races, and Jerry Lee Lewis pounding out the title track. Mamie Van Doren ups the glam factor as a sultry teacher, while the movie's gleeful references to marijuana, juvenile delinquency, and teenage rebellion sent moral crusaders into a panic, leading to bans in several states and demands for cuts. Yet, High School Confidential struck a chord with audiences, earning cult classic status and influencing a generation of exploitation filmmakers. Today, it's streaming in all its outrageous, uncensored glory, a time capsule of teenage trouble and mid-century mayhem. Which band classic are you adding to your queue? Let's talk in the comments. And that's a wrap on our journey through the most rebellious, controversial, and boundary-pushing films of the 1950s. From censors' nightmares to cult legends, these movies prove that the stories Hollywood tried to silence often become the ones we treasure most. Which of these hidden gems shocked you, or maybe became your new favorite? Let us know below. If you love rediscovering forgotten cinematic gold, don't forget to subscribe to Movieverse, ring that bell, and share this countdown with your fellow film buffs. There's a world of secret treasures waiting, and our journey into movie history is just getting started. Until next time, keep your popcorn close and your mind wide open.